Welcome back to the LEC studio. We are 4 games into our 15 games of Super Week, and I wanted to give you guys a quick update on how the playoff picture has developed. Now that things are, super simple and we only have 1,024 scenarios left to think about. Let's have a look at how we stand in the current situation. Mad Lions and Rogue are locked for playoffs. Mad have actually even locked top 2 with their win over Misfits in the last game. Now, all of this is really fuzzy. All of this is a little bit confusing, and I think an important thing to note is, even though we've seen teams like Misfits and teams like Origen lose today, they're actually still not out of the running. But I want to focus a little bit on this top point of the table, because championship points are so important when it comes to seeding into playoffs. What we see here is an example: if Mad Lions won the league, regular season, if Rogue came second, and if G2 came third. So Mad Lions would get 140 points for getting first place and have a total of 190 championship points. Rogue, getting second place in summer and 5th place in spring, would have 120 points altogether. And because G2 won spring and would place 3rd in summer, they'd actually have more points than Rogue. Well, what does this actually mean? Well, it means when we seed into playoffs, Rogue would be in 3rd place. G2 would overtake them and would likely have an easier road when it gets to getting into Worlds. Here as well, Mad Lions would be guaranteed a spot in the World Finals. Our last match of the day today, though, is G2 versus SK. And because of some of our head-to-head rules and because of some of the ways and the schedule we have over the next couple of days, the winner of this game will lock playoffs. They are in. No way can they get knocked out. But for now, actually, no one has been locked out of playoffs. Misfits still have a 6.8% scenario base where they can make it in. And Origen, even though they keep losing, even though they've lost 5 in a row, in 3.5% of scenarios, they can still make it into playoffs as well. G2 and SK are currently tied in 1st place. So let's see who locks that playoff spot tonight.
Hey, welcome to the Caster Desk. I'm Quickshot, joined by Vedius and Ender. Thank you
Caster Cage,
so
I'll have you know,
much, Medic. You are locked in the cage because of that attitude, young man.
Well, he stole my droid tool, okay?
Because you've used the clown and the Keck W's, so immaturely. We have upgraded the driver and the person who's allowed to use the tool to Ender.
Okay.
Let's turn our attention. 2 of the best teams in the league. Let's ask if that statement's true. SK beat G2 last time round. They are a different beast. I think they're looking more and more warmed up. Do you believe in G2 yet?
Do I believe in G2? Yeah. I think they're on the right track. I think that they have a much better understanding of what champions are good right now. But I feel like SK have had like a pretty solid formula for success for that team. So now I think the draft will be a pretty big indicator of who's going to have the advantage when we get into the game. Because while I think that SK have found a specific style that they are very good at, G2 are now coming into their own with their diversity and all their various drafts and interesting picks that they've come up with. So I think it'll be an interesting one. I think the draft's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, and while we were looking at sort of SK and how they performed last week, like they had the big upset win against Rogue, but that was not a perfect game by any means. No. So it seemed like it is still very much a team that can be exploited in the early game, and depending on G2's form, that's where they can really thrive and find ways to attack early.
I think the fact that there's so much on the line, the winner of this game is guaranteed playoffs. That is huge. I think it would be a big surprise for SK, and I think it would be a minimum accepted step for G2. Let's turn our attention to the draft. Caitlyn has been a dominant force. 3 games out of 4 first pick. The other game was banned. Maybe Ender, what direction do you anticipate the draft going with G2 being on the blue side?
Well, I think we're looking at Caitlyn, or in G2 fashion, we're looking at stuff like the Syndra, can be very powerful. Jankos loves to gravitate towards the Volibear as well. So pretty common, first picks that we have our eyes on. Senna can also be thrown into that group 2 for G2.
Wow, blind Yuumi ban. Okay, well that's pretty interesting, because this suggests that if you remove the Yuumi, then it makes Twitch and Ezreal that much weaker. And I think that both of those are big picks for Crownshot. This means that G2 don't have to ban those champions. And instead, they're just going to keep banning away a lot of these range support. If they ban Morgana, then perhaps they actually just leave the Caitlyn open.
Look, you say range support, I say anti-fun champions down the bot
That's
side.
fair.
So they're trying to remove that, because those are the 2 champions that, paired with Ezreal, absolutely deadly. In the bot side, we know how much Crownshot does love that Ezreal.
The set ban, very targeted towards Trick as well, something that he is often defaulted to. So G2 kind of targeted. Of course, the Karma is a little bit interesting, but very flexible, depending on what G2 want to prioritize.
I mean, that Sett is the only champion that Trick has played more than twice. 5 games played this summer, and then 2-2-2, 1-1-1 for a multitude of other champions. And the final ban from SK is going to be the LeBlanc, so that Caitlyn is still open and available, and it has been
No, it's the
snapped
Syndra.
Yeah,
Trevor,
exactly.
like, yeah, Caps' LeBlanc has been so deadly, but
Get
now
his
all
win
of a
rate,
sudden-
quick shot. This is your stat. You got to check it, because I tell you now, it's very impressive.
It is. Do you want to know how many games he's played this summer?
Tell me.
1. Do you want to know what the win rate is?
I know it's 100%.
100%. What I will do is I'll look at his historical
Yep.
stats, which I don't have ready yet, so don't throw me in the deep
I
end.
believe it's 17-3. I believe, but we'll have to wait and see. Caitlyn going to be locked in. Morgana is still up and available. I wonder if they'll look to blind pick that. Oh wait, Senna's up and available, so G2 actually have an answer to it as well.
I also don't think, like, even if you wanted to run Morgana, you wouldn't have to pick it up here. I think it would be pretty unlikely that Mickey would, like, try to steal that Morgana away. We see it as very common pairing down the bot side, but Thresh, I really like next to that Caitlyn. Again, the chain CC with the traps, it gives you more options in and out with the Lantern as well. And it also removes one of the big pairings if the Syndra were to be pushed into bot lane. Syndra Thresh, Syndra Nautilus is what you're looking at. Sure.
If I include, by the way, every single Syndra game, not just at a local level, 30 games played with a 76% win ratio for Caps on Syndra and a measly 5 KDA across those
Measly.
30 games. I use the term sarcastically, of course. And of course, now the Jhin counter into Caitlyn, another unique support pair alongside. It's going to be the Nautilus this time around.
I've seen quite a few people upset about this Jhin pick into Caitlyn on social media. I think there's a lot of interesting debate and controversy around it, but it seems to me that pros in Europe right now clearly favor the Jhin over the Ashe. We are not Ashe players over here, especially relative to the LPL. And we've also got some crowd control coming in for the side of G2 Esports. So I would say it's a very strong 2 versus 2 lane for sure.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at, like, the debate between Jhin and Ashe, Ashe is going to give you more control over the wave. Her volley gives you a ton of value within that, but I think Jhin gives you stronger trades. You know, auto Q, 4th shot combined with Nautilus going in. That's going to make your 2 versus 2 a lot stronger down there in that side. And also, Jhin W gives that immediate lock-in value for the chain CC. Of course, if Jankos visits bot side, he has a lot of lanes he can gank for. Both bot lane and mid lane looking very juicy already.
What champions are we going to see coming out of the jungle? Not a heavy priority on bans, the Sett and the Volibear. Then you're seeing top lane bans thus far in the Camille and the Renekton. So a number of options still there. The Sejuani is still open.
I was going to say, what rhymes with Arnie?
I'm just wondering if they steal that away on Trick's behalf, because we know Grabs will want to put Jankos on it.
Yeah, I mean, the other champion that both junglers have sort of liked is the Kha'Zix. Now, I don't feel like Kha'Zix is a great fit here for SK, even though, you know, we've seen a lot of people like to pair it with the Orianna. Whether or not they combo the ult with the leap is up for debate, but I think Kha'Zix can struggle into a Syndra. Her disengage, her burst damage is going to be very difficult, so I wouldn't be eyeing that person.
I think G2 right now is considering, well, with the Mordekaiser ban, my instincts kind of suggest Wukong. Oh, you're thinking Ornn as well?
I was thinking Ornn.
Oh, yes!
Surely they're locking Lee Sin here. Surely.
Yeah, I mean, I like Lee Sin here for Jankos. Of course, you can try to get aggressive early, especially like when you're seeing Syndra in mid lane. The way you attack Fiddlesticks is early. Pre-level 6, get into his jungle, fight him. Even if he doesn't take the fights against you, you can steal away camps and deny him a lot in that. So assuming the Syndra can get priority through the middle lane, that opens Jankos up to take a more aggressive jungler here to frag out against Fiddle.
Cho'Gath is really interesting. Obviously, they had to pick something blind, but I guess maybe they're thinking of the silence? Perhaps the silence from the Cho, or maybe the knock-up to interrupt the Fiddle from over the walls. I wonder if the Cho is even in mind with the Fiddle lock-in, or whether that was something that they just wanted to add to the comp as an additional front.
I think they're looking at that's like, what can we sort of take in top lane that's a safer blind play, I guess, when you've removed
Because like Ornn
the
would be my
Renekton.
default blind.
Yeah, I would be looking at Ornn, but wonder, of course, it's probably going to be that AP Cho'Gath, which gives Glacial Augment. You have multiple long-range engaged slows, too, that really help you search out fights, find out enemy champions. And if this Sylas gets locked in, I love this as a counter pick into the Cho'Gath. You can steal away the ultimate, stack
That's why we
stats
don't
up.
talk about hovers,
But
Ender.
I love it as a counter into the Cho'Gath.
Well, unlucky. Instead, we're going to be seeing Sion. Tank top lane matchup. I think that Sion can get priority over the Cho'Gath in the early levels. What I am concerned about, Quickshot, is that Syndra Lee Sin, very potent 2v2 lane. Whenever I play with Ender and whenever we're playing Fiddlesticks, he likes me on Nocturne because it's easy for me to get push and collapse. And he's like, if I'm getting invaded on, I can protect him. But I feel like the Orion is just going to get pushed in by this Syndra in mid.
Well, the question is then, how else do SK manage to get this team composition into the later stages of the game? I see a lot of risky options early on here against G2. We've seen them playing early comps in recent weeks.
Look, I think it's less about getting the whole team into the late game, and it's just about getting Trick to level 6. Once level 6 comes online, you can look to fight around lanes with CC to set up for you. You can look to fight around dragons. That's going to be the bread and butter for SK today.
Oh, I love the fact that we get to see Jankos on that Lee Sin as well. It's G2 taking on SK. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else to Summoner's Rift. Let the game begin. The winner is guaranteed a spot in playoffs. SK Gaming have already grouped themselves up in the bottom lane, and they will be setting themselves up for a potential, but they're going to back out. Nobody's going to step forward here from G2, and I definitely want to see how this Cho'Gath will perform in the latest stages.
I love you bringing it up. I want to check back in on the Cho'Gath because in draft you're saying, hey, a lot of what we've seen recently is the AP Cho'Gath, but with Wunder rocking Grasp the Undying, that hints to me it's going to be Tank Cho'Gath, which I think can work too. And another thing you were mentioning, Vedius, was how Cho'Gath can function into the Fiddlesticks in these team fights because he has so many great ways of disrupting Fiddlesticks' drain. Now, he can't counter the Fiddlesticks' ultimate, but with both the silence and the knockup, it means that Fiddle's intrinsic value of being super disruptive and sustaining through fights is going to be greatly diminished. And when you combine a Syndra plus a Cho'Gath Feast, you can instantly destroy the front line. And until Trick gets a Zhonya's, that's going to be tough to deal with.
This is an interesting play, the delayed invade from G2. We expected early invades up against the Fiddlesticks, but it looks like we now have the bot lane fight.
Dredgeline comes out, built over Peacemaker. Now Perkz and Mickey are taking a lot of its damage. The exhaust will slow things down. Mickey below 100. First blood picked up and on crown shots, Caitlyn. Jankos is going to be able to put a lot of damage onto Trick, but with no resonating strike to be able to follow up. Now that's a flash over the wall. Gets past the effigy for now. Jankos hops over with a safeguard, and it's actually SK that punished the invade from G2.
That's so strange there, because G2 were super split up. They basically said bot lane take the 2v2 and jungle take the 1v1, but Perkz and Mickey are going to lose that fight at level 1. Jhin cannot go for the extended trades, as you can see here, especially because he doesn't get the 4th shot off. Now, at the same time, Jankos was able to steal away the wolves. At least, I think a big one and a small one is going to give you level 2, so he got half the camp, and Trick only got the small one, so he still won out the trade. But he lost the flash, and I don't think that's worth it.
Yeah, I would say that this bot lane is like giga doomed. I believe the technical term is for G2's bot lane right now.
I think I read that in a research support somewhere.
Exactly. The fact that they went for that 2v2, I think that there's a world in which they could maybe win it, but you're down against a heal. Maybe if you use Ignite, but then you're also playing against an Exhaust, but then the Cleanse,
Yeah.
I think the reality is the position that G2 was in when they started the fight never set them up for success. And we'll be able to get back and watch it.
But I wonder, it looks like Mickey is going in. Jankos does not get the memo. So if Jankos comes with them, maybe they can push for this fight, and Fiddle isn't going to be able to instantly tick over to 2. I feel like if Jankos had just said, no, instead of going for the jungle steal, we turn around on this, this would have actually been very favorable for G2.
I guess Jankos' argument here is that if I kill Trick, I win the bot lane matchup by default, because then I can come back and look for a gank by having a level advantage, and Trick is very far behind, and bot lane you can just kind of suck it up.
Look, Fetty, you don't have to convince me. I'm a jungler. I'm taking the camp every time, but his team's not thrilled.
When we zoom out, first blood to SK, 600 gold up, and importantly landed in Crown Shot's pocket. He's not yet been to back, but that's just going to speed up his first itemization, and that is a terrifying prospect against a champion like the Caitlyn. But SK are going to be pretty content with that. The crab is just being picked up there by Trick. And as expected, middle lane is just being shoved in. Dredgeline connects. That's beautiful. 90 caliber net backwards. Perkz is looking for the crit. The death sentence from Limit buys just enough time to keep Crownshot alive. He's now flashed defensively. The Riptide will slow them down. A boop onto the head, but not enough from the Deadly Flourish. And Mickey with the dredge line. Every skill shot landed from G2, except the ones that SK dodged.
All right, so if we're using technical terms, I believe what Mickey did there was the Giga Smurf. He landed such a beautiful hook onto
Turbo
Crown
Smurf.
Shots. Like, oh, my apologies.
Yes.
You're correctly
Yeah.
right. Like, he was... The execution on that was flawless, and now Jankos is not slowing down this aggression as he has his eyes on Trick's red buff.
Okay, now Sonic Wave will connect there. Smite comes out. Trick will have support from Limit, but here comes Caps. No ultimate available. Trick was able to get that one. That's a push back, at least onto Zazi for now. And now all of a sudden, Jankos needs to dash to the ward for safety. The Rupture from Wonder buys enough time. In and out doesn't get the objective. And the second time, the invade doesn't quite go as
So
planned.
Jankos got the big Raptor, but I would have preferred to see him hold on to his Smite and try to combo that down with the red buff. That's going to be the ideal trade. But you can see the theory of how you're supposed to play against the Fiddlesticks. Can they find it? Not going to try it out there. But Trick, going through the jungle, on pretty much every camp as Fiddle, you're trying to clear 2 camps at once. Because ever since the rework, his W is going to be AoE, is going to hit everything in that circle around him. So he can clear through the most effective ways by doing multiple camps at the same time. Jankos recognizes that and tries to go for the invade. And everything, the theory is working, where Caps has the pressure as well. But I think SK did a good job of collapsing and trying to punish him on the way out.
Yeah, the roam from Limit only being level 2, I think, was a good read from SK, and they've been able to slow down the aggression from Jankos. Trick, considering he had to base, I believe, at level 1 because he lost that first camp. The fact that he's been able to come back is pretty impressive. Now we'll see, excuse me, how well he does as we approach the level 6 mark. Of course, still a bit of ways from that, and SK is going to have to give up some of these early objectives, but right now, considering the comp that G2 have, SK should feel pretty happy with how the early game has gone.
Yeah, not too far behind, 600 gold. Big CS disparity in the top lane. I can't quite see what the minion wave looks like for the time being, but 20 CS difference.
Wow.
And there's a lot in front here of Genax, but not enough to make up that deficit. Small advantage for Caps in the mid lane, and obviously small advantage thus far for Perkz in the bottom lane as Jankos is sniffing around. But I mean, early game plays, G2 very proactive, very like invade heavy as once again Jankos is stepping forward.
I love this. Jankos is playing off the priority of his lanes to look for the invade. Now, one thing to keep in mind, Trick is running Unsealed Spellbook, so he swapped over his Smite to a heal for any, so you know, and get him some defensive stats as well. He's probably also running Nimbus Cloak, so whenever he swaps over these things, he can be hyper mobile by popping a Summoner spell. And it doesn't look like Jankos wants to continue forward with that invade. He's been a little bit unlucky a couple times in a row now, and because of basically how the terrain works around bot side, it's so much easier for red side to collapse.
Oh, Death Sentence on the Perkz instantly cleansed away. Didn't want to take any further damage. By the way, BF so picked up by Crownshot on their last back versus the pickaxe on the side of Perkz. Level 5 for Trick. Crowstorm is not available just yet, Vedius.
No, but I think in this situation, Trick is just hovering to make sure that his bot lane rather is nice and safe. Meanwhile, we've been talking a lot about the bot lane. If we have a look at mid lane, Caps has been able to build up a pretty sizable lead, and what we expected was that Syndra would be able to use her strong early prio against an Orianna to set up invades with Jankos, and while we did see that on the red buff, it actually hasn't resulted in that much else. So props to Zazi to be able to hold his own. Like, of course, he is still at this deficit, but Orianna's value becomes much later. The fact that you get magic resistance on the shield, the fact that you have a shield to mitigate some of the burst later on into the game. So yeah, again, I think the SK is in a comfortable position right now.
Yeah, they've just been sort of keeping to themselves. I will say there's like weird fallout because of how hectic the early game was around the jungle invade. Is that our junglers very behind the time more often than normal because they're both still level 5. Solo lanes are taking over to level 8 now. Caps hit, so junglers being the same level as bot lane at 8 minutes into the game is kind of ridiculous, and this is going to benefit G2 more than an SK. Of course, Trick is really hoping to get over towards level 6, and because it hasn't come through yet, even with an effigy over on the Rift Herald, Jankos is very free to take whatever he wants in the river.
And he's tried to play that way the entire game. Caps, by the way, has been chunking out Zazi. Every time we've looked at this mid lane, Caps is pushing forward, comboing things down onto Zazi. His LEC win rate on this champion is 16 wins and 3 losses. It is exceptionally impressive. He's built himself up a 20 CS advantage already. Zazi has no teleport available, so can't back away even if he wanted to.
Oh, they want to dive this.
may be able to do it. Won't be in range for the Unleashed Power, Vedius, and looks as though Jankos is going to be moving in from the side.
Yeah, Caps was just trying to chunk out. He's holding onto his ultimate, so Jankos is here, but Trick can ulti over this wall.
Here it comes.
Down, and there's the Crowstorm flash forward. Shockwave whiffs from Zazi as the Rift Herald still gets the poop on the mid lane. There was a flash out of Caps, but it traded for flash and Crowstorm from Trick.
So, quick reactions there from G2, because I'll tell you now, I would have been hit by that Crowstorm. I would have been hit by that combo immediately, because I think that Trick read the play well and his ultimate was good, but because the fear didn't come through, Zazi's Shockwave wasn't able to connect, which then meant that Caps and Jankos could back out of that, and I think the only way they could do that was because of their insane reaction time.
The thing is with Fiddlesticks, the passive fear, not the actual Q itself, is hold that as one has to flash away from underneath the turret, is you have a very brief window coming out of the Fog of War to deal damage for the passive fear to come through. So Trick was off on that. He was reading that G2 were going to go super ham for the dive, and because Jankos didn't fully commit in there, it was a pretty easy reaction, I feel like, for G2 to get away from that.
And what a huge amount of breathing room, knowing that both Flash and Crowstorm are down on the side of G2. Jankos was the first one to make that play. They're currently 1,500 gold up. Yes, they are down a couple of flashes, but knowing that they don't have Trick hopping over the wall to instantly fear them and potentially kill them is definitely some good of advantage.
Yeah, I feel like G2, great position at the moment, especially 1 minute out from this Ocean Drake spawning. If you look at and just compare jungle itemization purely, Jankos, Red Smite with the finished Warrior Trick, no ultimate, again, just got back onto the map. He doesn't have his finished item either, and that's a massive spike for mage junglers as well. So G2 will almost certainly get this next dragon uncontested. The only thing they have to worry about is that Genax will have TP very, very shortly, and Wunder won't be able to respond to that.
Wunder, by the way, has picked up that Sunfire Cape, and obviously with the discussion we had both from draft and then very early game, moving more towards that tanky option. Ender, do you see, as the Death Sentence connects on Perks, cleanse instant again? Looks like he's trying to bait it. Flash forward. That Dredge hit the wall, didn't it? That was a face plant of note. The box comes down from Limit as the curtain is called back, and Perks forced to retreat now. Teleport coming out here. That looks like a Genax TP. It's Trick, in fact, with the spellbook. And now Caps is going to walk away. So some fun times in the bottom lane, and nobody goes down.
And that was your perfect opportunity to use a kick W on him. That was like that was your moment right there, right next to his face, bottom left. Bottom left. There you go.
Got it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
This means that SK is going to be able to get themselves the Ocean Drake, and a lot of that just comes off the fact that Limit lands a good hook. That forces the cleanse, that leads to these series of events happening in the bot lane, which then immediately concedes all this pressure. And when we look at the state for SK, the expectations are G2 should have control over the early game. They have all these pushing lanes. They get to be super proactive. So any objective that SK can get is a win for them.
I mean, just look at this. Wunder was between towers in the top lane, has rotated down. Zazi under so much pressure, even with his ultimate up, like, he's got virtually no mana and has to be concerned about any potential dive. So that one window, because SK were able to dodge away, or the wall helped them dodge away from Mickey's hook there, now they've actually put themselves in a decent spot.
Is there a timing window that G2 need to respect here in terms of compositions, in terms of timing? Ender, I can see you shaking your head a little bit as we contemplate the question, but it feels to me as though that sense of urgency is being built up.
Yeah, so I think SK do have some really solid scaling options here too. Like, Fiddlesticks is one of the strongest scaling junglers in the game. Pretty much most mage junglers are going to fit into that camp, but Fiddle offers so much value inside of a team fight if he can get a big ultimate off that you have to respect that. On top of that, Sion going to be scaling infinitely with the passive he gains off his base abilities, so he's going to be a really chunky boy later on into the game who can just offer a lot of zone control and threat by ulting in with the Fiddlesticks ult. You have these things you can layer up and really put down the hurt with.
This is also conventionally what you see from SK when they play, not the mage jungle part, but where you have a traditional mage mid, you have a kind of hyper-scaling AD carry, and then you kind of just have a front line that plays around them, and then when they look to teamfight you, and usually when they get their big gold advantages, it's around like 18 minutes when the third Drake spawns, and that's usually when they look to really force these fights. Ooh. So the fact that SK have come out with, you know, a relatively low gold deficit for now is pretty solid. And here comes the ult from Fiddle.
And there's the call with an ace in the hole and a death sentence to boot. Crown Shot takes out Perks. His second kill of the game, and that goal lead, only 1,000, is pretty good for SK.
That was a really nice move right there, and I want to see Trick and Limit moving around the map together more, because that's almost a picture-perfect roam. They push out mid, they've been able to sweep through the entire jungle, because now that Trick has ticked past 6, his FG is also going to function as sweepers, so very easy to remove vision from G2. Still have to worry about the dive, though.
They do indeed. Jankos coming around the flank, held onto the Q, so didn't chase Zazi out. No tower has fallen yet, and we're still 2.5 minutes away from the next Drake. But also Perkz lost his flash in that engage in the bottom lane. So if SK wanted to look to rinse and repeat it, they could. Things are starting to get a little more tense, but G2 will push in this mid wave, get some damage. It looks like the tower will just about fall. And Mickey's even going to use the Hex flash forward just to threaten and engage Vedius. But at the end of the day, first tower goes to G2 and they still maintain control of the game.
So yeah, we're hitting 15 minutes. We're going to get a replay of this play. And I think that the fact that Limit was able to get in behind, they then use the Lantern to drag Trick over the wall. And then they have the Blast Cone there as well. Like, the execution was just so well done by SK. Perkz, I mean, he should have recognized the bot side of the map. He didn't have any vision control. This was a very dangerous position for him to be in. And of course, he ends up getting punished for it. So, well played there by SK. And crucially, Crown Shot gets the kill. Now, any SK fan will tell you, if Crown Shot has kills, they're feeling good. You know? Like, it doesn't matter what he's on. He's sitting at 2-0-0. All the SK fans are like, okay, I like how this game is going. And when you're a G2 fan, you're looking at, okay, how's Caps doing? What's he like? Well, sure, he's very ahead in his lane. He's sitting comfortably on the Syndra, but right now he's even on itemization with Zazi. So while Caps does have a lot of gold, you can see that the two big carries for both these teams are currently sitting near the top. So
here we go.
Very close.
What? Mickey just failed again.
Remember, there's no flash. Remember, there's no flash. Perkz is just easily picked off by SK. Mickey will get the dredge line this time around. The tower falls in favor of SK, and the Feral Scream will slow down the SK advance. But there is the Bountiful Harvest.
Wow.
It's a feast. Get eaten alive by Cho'Gath. Instantly in reply, though. Limit with another good death sentence. It ends up being a 2-for-1 in favor of SK, but they get the tower to boot.
It's just crazy, though, because G2 see the play coming in down towards the bot side. Mickey, whose flash has just come up, was sitting on the Hex flash and just face plants into the wall one more time. Check this out. I'm just like, what's going on here? He starts the Hex flash. Boop, bop.
Oh.
You hate to see it. And at this point, now Wonder's going to try to get involved in this fight.
That's a kick W. You have this emote, and you have the emote.
I actually don't hate to see it, because when I see pro players at this level doing that, it makes me feel better about myself.
Look at this silence from Trick, by the way. That's literally what saved his life for a brief period.
Yeah, well.
But then it forces Wonder to commit the flash. So while he does get that kill, he also sentences himself to death, and then really good stopwatch here from Limit as well. So honestly, really well played from SK. I love the TP from Genax as well. I think the execution was very good from SK.
Oh, just as we come out, Perkz eats a decimating smash to the face from Genax. Support from Jankos means Genax backs away, and the third dragon of the game will be picked up by SK uncontested. I will concede at this point that not allowing Vedius access to the Kick W tool may have been a mistake on my part, and I apologize.
No, it was the right choice.
To the viewers at home, as Ender, SK Gaming, they're clawing back the lead. They've got 2 Drakes under their belt, and they're looking strong.
And that's great, Trevor, but I just want to talk about Cho'Gath itemization, because this is really interesting what we're seeing from Wonder right now. Yes, exactly. You see a Tiamat. Now, a lot of you are going to be like, why is an AP champion building Tiamat? That's crazy. He doesn't need wave clear. He already has the Sunfire cape. But this is something we've seen from Sion, because both these champions have insane HP scaling. Sion off his W or Z or whatever, Cho'Gath off of his ultimate. Now, when he upgrades that Tiamat into a Titanic Hydra, both the basic auto attack cleave, the cone that comes out, as well as the empowered attack, deal bonus damage based on the user's max HP. I think it's 1% for the basic attacks and 3% for the actual bonus itself. And what that means is that Wonder can combo those auto attack resets with his E and that Titanic Hydra passive, and it also deals that bonus max HP damage, which is going to be a lot later on.
I can't wait to see that play out, and I think if Shakarez is watching, the mechanics breakdown of a flawless combo might be super fun.
No, there's no
Yes,
flawless
it will.
combo with Cho'Gath. It's flash WR.
No, false.
you get-
It's flash auto, E auto,
Yes.
one auto, or
Correct.
whatever it's bound to.
Now,
Okay.
Ender,
Let's
I
see
was
which one
listening to
happens,
you,
okay?
I was listening to you, Ender. Mr. Day pieced out
Yeah, okay,
of the
let's
Titanic
see.
discussion.
Let's see.
But before we get to any of that, we need to see how it plays out. Obviously, that was picked up by Wunder. Caps has the support of Jankos in this bottom lane. The third outer, or the outer turret is now under threat as the second Rift Herald has just been dropped. And it's important to note, still 1,500 gold advantage here to G2 Esports. Caps 0-0-0 with a 30 CS advantage, hasn't found kills. And now Gen X will get found out, but really, I think Gen X is like, yeah, please, I dare you to fight me.
So we're now approaching 20 minutes into the game, second items being worked on pretty much all across the board, and this is where you really start to get worried about Fiddlesticks, because as Ender was saying earlier, the scaling on the champion is so strong, and when you hit level 11, you get that second point in your ultimate, and all of a sudden, the champion becomes so much scarier. Working towards the Zhonyas as well, he's very close to completing that. SK are only getting stronger, and this next Drake fight, I feel, is going to be a very large point in the game where either SK will take firm control, or G2 can look to try and challenge some of the big strengths that SK's comp has.
And just Fiddlesticks existing in the game, when you think about fighting over objectives, changes the way that you have to play the fights. Because for G2, it is ideal to allow SK to go onto the Drake first. Because it's so much harder for, you know, a jungler Fiddlesticks who needs to be in the pit ready to smite to turn around and get his ultimate off than it is for him to see you 5 in the pit and then hop over wall into you. So G2 are likely going to give up river control around these objectives and then re-engage those fights off of, you know, stuns and whatnot from Mickey and Caps.
I'm going to keep my eyes on there where Trick manages to position himself. Obviously, he needs to be close to the pit, but also, ideally, wanting to be able to Crow Storm with a surprise. He's just picked up the Hourglass. 0-1-3 on that Fiddle. Needlessly large rod was secured by Caps as Limit is caught out by that Force of Will and Scatter the Weak, but not enough balls around to really pick up any further kills. Also, by the way, Crown Shot, rapid fire cannon to complement the Eye Edge. Any SK fans will know that when Crown Shot has kills, they're going to be very happy.
Yes, they are. And that dragon is going to be spawning in a minute's time. So Crown Shot and Trick, these are the two players I'm going to be keeping my eyes on in this upcoming fight. And like, Trev, this is now pretty much the best time and opportunity you have to set the stakes, because we got to remind people, both teams 8 and 7. I believe if either team wins this, they do lock a spot in playoffs.
Yes, they do. You've stolen all my content. What would you like me to do? Curtain is called. Shot 1 connects, 2 connects, 3 finds a target, and the 4th between them. Not going to find Limit. The Shockwave in the middle of the lane doesn't do anything. And now SK Gaming are forced to back away. 50 seconds to Dragon. And like Vedius said, the winner of this game guarantees playoffs. They will hold sole control of third for now, with 2 games to play. And remember the stakes and the bigger picture. If you don't make playoffs, you don't make worlds.
And this Dragon could be a big one in 30 seconds because both teams are going to be able to reset before getting into this one. Now, look at where Wunder is sitting already. The man is going to wait here forever. If anyone walks in, he can threaten a one-shot. Maybe he takes a Gromp camp. No, he's going to wait. He's going to wait. Trust me. He's got the wards because this is what G2 need. They need to be able to see Trick coming into them. Now that Trick doesn't have flash, his ultimate has to be key. So they let SK into the pit, then they find the pick with the flank.
We get to ask the question, who's the scariest monster, Trevor? Fiddlesticks or Cho'Gath?
Oh! Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Wunder.
They knew where he was. They had the vision to put it down. Here's
He
Wunder.
got stunned. He's locked up in place. Now what can he do? He's going to be able to flash over the wall. He does. Manages to get the feast. Vedius was
Cho'Gath
right.
mechanics.
Vedius was right. It was flash feast. That's all we got. And G2 Esports managed to find the second dragon. They extend their gold lead 2,500.
I object with your call. Vedius was not right. He used an E and a Titanic Hydra, and that's why he won.
But you know what? Endo is very right in the Wunder spot. G2 played that beautifully. The flank from Wunder, like, it was all in the planning. They read that play in advance. They knew that SK would come to this objective. And again, like, you can see the vision, what SK can see, right? They have some information. They know that this Syndra's coming from behind. Perhaps they just missed that one out, but then Trick gets caught out, loses all his HP as he gets one-shot by Caps. And then here's Wunder from the corner. Gets the knock-up onto Caitlyn. You can see his target is the Kate, but it's Zazi that ends up getting locked up. Gets silenced. Flash, auto,
That's the auto reset.
consume.
That auto reset did so much damage. That was nuts. Also, I appreciate Trick trying to, pretend like he's a ward. He was a champion and not for long in that fight.
Got blown up. And exactly as both of you had discussed, ideally G2 wanted to re-engage, right? Give up the river, let SK move in, and they managed to find a flanking position with Wunder. They are now 2,500 hit, as we said, 4 kills to 4, 3 towers to 2. But I wonder how many times they'll be able to pull that surprise, the rabbit out of the hat.
What I think is really interesting is when you look at comps, one of the things to think about is who wants to be on an objective first. And when you're typically playing with a Caitlyn, you want that champion to be there first so that she can lay down her traps, because then it becomes very difficult for your opponents to be able to challenge. But when you also have a Fiddlesticks, it doesn't matter if your opponents are there first, because the Fiddle is so good at reclaiming control or engaging on an objective. But G2 almost lured SK into this false sense of security where it's like, we're going to concede control, we actually don't want you to fight, and then they had this clever flank setup. So I think it's really interesting of like, utilizing comp dynamics and recognizing, hey, they actually have both tools of being first on objective while also attacking on second.
And now we're at a point where everything is wrong for SK in terms of map control, because Caitlyn, she wants to be placed as well. She's stuck inside her tower, and Fiddlesticks gets picked off.
Oh, I thought he had the damage. The feast was available. Wunder didn't
Oh
close
my
the gap.
God.
But look at that burst coming out. Now going golden for Zazi, buys enough time. Wunder's still holding on to the feast, looking for another target as Mickey is sitting in the back. That's the shockwave finally connecting onto Wunder, but that is a dead Janak. Zombie Scion gonna try to do some work, but he can't close the gap enough. Perkz takes one punch to the face, and the inner turret will be focused down. Now, call goes out, but everyone stays outside of the cone of vision, and that means G2 unable to do it, but they get the 4th kill.
But just look at how G2 have exploded the entire game. In the 3 minutes since they took that Infernal Drake, they walk completely inside the enemy jungle, they get the picks, they get the kills. Wunder is just allowed to freely step forward here, and he puts the damage down onto Trick. He's in effectively a 1 versus 5, but the rest of G2 is over the wall. Caps' damage is ridiculous.
crazy.
Even the Luden's proc going over to Trick does an obscene amount.
Wow, and all these stopwatches coming out too. Trick is like, oh, I might get one shot as well. And Zazi's forced to use a stopwatch. Here you can see some of the powerful sustain that Fiddlesticks does have even through an Ignite, but Mickey and Wunder do such a good job of just soaking up all this damage, and the return damage isn't coming out. And I think it's really important to highlight, as Ender was saying, what Caps did there, because if Zazi and Crownshot were free to play that fight without Caps interrupting everything, then that actually could have gone so much better for SK, but because of Caps, that was a one-sided fight for G2.
And indulge me as I nerd out for a moment, but Wunder's Titanic Hydra, that's AoE damage too. So he's able to layer that down in the combination there. He's got a Righteous Glory to target
excited.
access. It's looking good. And he's stacking a lot of armor right now, but it doesn't really matter because the only one dealing damage is Crownshot.
Yeah, definitely the case. Limit is in trouble. Caught between 4, forced to flash away.
Oh, the
Rupture
interrupts.
knocks up Trick. That means the Crow Storm will not land. Wunder gets flayed backwards. Remember, he's got a lot of damage to deal. He's taken out. SK Gaming managed to get one back on the beefiest member of G2. The ace in the hole will find its target and interrupt on the dredge line, and that means Mickey goes down as well. And with 40 seconds to Dragon, maybe SK can set up.
This is a really good opportunity for SK to go to Baron, but they don't know that Caps is sitting here on the flank. If
at the ball.
Crownshot face jack,
He's dead, he's dead, he's dead. Goodbye, Unleashed Power comes out. Caps is just sitting there dropping the orbs down, and now 25 seconds to Infernal. Caps is stepping forward. Remember, Mickey's down, so is Wunder. TP is up for Wunder.
Yeah, G2 are just threatening. They're waiting 15 seconds before Wunder can get into the fight. Perkz!
Oh, flashes away from the shockwave.
Okay, a little ambitious.
Yeah.
G2 are going to be able to walk SK out of the jungle and pick up this Drake. I don't think SK want to fight them. Because, I mean, if you rewind back like a full minute to when, Wunder got picked off and ended up falling there, the insanity of G2 was to press forward when Caps was up in the top lane.
Yep.
Just wait till Caps comes around. He's got a Magi's. He does stupid damage at the moment with the Void Staff completed as well. So if you just play around him entirely,
oh, the
he'll carry
TP
the
flank.
fight.
Wonder's going to kill Zazi.
Chasing. Let's watch
Oh,
the
it's
damage.
2 teleports.
Yeah, that's just
That was
not fair.
unnecessary.
That is just overkill of the umpteenth degree. 3rd Dragon picked up, double TP invested.
Oh, now this Syndra has
Baron
double
now?
Infernal. Like, oh my word. I mean, they could do Baron. It's a little risky against Fiddlesticks. That's the biggest thing that G2 have to be concerned about. like, Caps has 343 farm at 28 minutes.
And I can't really see the screen. How many stacks is that on Medjai's?
11.
11? This extra cage of yours makes it real difficult to look at screens, gentlemen. I do want to ask a slightly philosophical question, as we do have a moment or two.
Philosophical, okay.
All of the discussion we've had around Mad and Rogue and who's going to look good, will G2 win the summer split? Right? We see them coming up. Now, I don't really necessarily want you and Vedius and Ender to chime in. I want to know, chat, do you think G2 will win the summer split? It's been a discussion around many segments. Vote yes or no in chat, and we'll take a look as Limit's going to get run down. But for the time being, G2 are looking like they are ramping up. Over the last, let's say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they're finding some gears. We've got a unique itemization here from Wonder, and they've got a significant lead right now, Vedius.
Yeah, I think that G2 are playing very well. I think that SK held on to the early game very well. And ultimately, it came down to that one big fight around the Drake, which was executed very well. Now, here comes the ult from Trick.
It will indeed. Crowstorm comes out, but it doesn't matter. Look, easy disengage, for relatively speaking, for G2. Caps is on the Wonder. The Rupture comes up. The Shockwave actually added some distance, but the Rupture on the Crown Shot, followed up by the Sonic Wave. Crown Shot is going to be able to escape with his life for now, as GenX can buy some time, but Trick goes down, and so does Jankos.
All right, Jankos getting a little amped there, going underneath the tower, because if he lives, G2 can probably turn on the Baron.
Yep.
I mean, they do have a Cho'Gath, so they don't even technically need the Smite if they do want to secure that a little bit
And
later
what is that,
on.
17 stacks for the 4-0-2
So
Syndra.
17, oh, 17, I was like, there's 17 levels on the Cho'Gath. I just checked, he has 8 total stacks on the champion.
There's
You
too
are
many stacking
correct, Quick
mechanics.
Shot. 17 stacks on the Medjai's. Syndra, wait, what's the technical term? Is Gigafed?
Turbo fed.
Turbo Fed.
Yeah.
How do you determine
Read
the
a different
difference?
dictionary to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's a lot of different, levels, because you can have, like, Omega Poggers, things like this, if you really want to go
He
extreme.
just made that up.
He did indeed.
That
I
doesn't
mean,
sound,
for sure
don't
made
look
that
at
up.
me.
scientific at all.
Vedius looks at me and goes, he made that up, as if I'm going to know. Like, come on. But look, G2, by the way, 2 minutes until the next dragon. Do they just wait for that, look for the soul, and then push in? Because it feels like that's
I
the
think
case.
Wonder could do with a reset, and it looks like that Perkz is going to do the same. No teleports available, and I think that for now they can look to concede this mid-tier 1 because they don't need to keep it alive.
They just want to, so SK are trying to push the wave and then look for a dive here on
Oh,
Caps.
but he's, remember, okay, now he's been spotted.
Yeah.
Because I actually do like the play. Like, right now, SK have a mini game, and that's delete Medjai stacks before an objective spawns,
Good luck with that one, by the way. Fans at home, pretty split here, 2/3 to a third, saying that G2 will win as now the Death Sentence catches onto Wonder.
Oh, Mickey found
Ball
Trick!
comes out. Mickey has found Trick, so Crowstorm cannot be activated without the awareness. 1.5 minutes to Dragon, so, it's a skirmish, but nothing really comes from it. There's nothing really to fight about just right now.
Well, right now, not many ultimates, if any, were used. Perkz did throw his one out, so just a couple of abilities used, a bit of damage traded back and forth. Right now, it seems that G2 have control over the Baron, but I don't think they want to rush that one anytime soon.
No.
They have a wave top lane that they need to be careful of, and it looks like Caps is actually going to go deal with that right now. Keep the pressure up, force SK to have to deal with these minion waves. I like this. And then it looks like G2 will push out mid. Now, the debate is, like, do they bother keeping investing? Do they bother to keep investing vision towards topside when you know that Inferno Drake is 445?
No, they want to set up the trap. Because remember the last time, it was Wonder go stand in that tri-brush. Look where Wonder is, by the way. He's in the spot again. He's going to clear away.
the waves.
No
He's going
ways
to clear
it
away
works
first.
again.
But he can set that up because, right, like SK can't commit multiple members into the bot lane because then G2 could just move to Baron. So they have to be careful of Wonder on the flank. G2, again, have the deep vision to spot out a Trick ultimate.
That's the fear into the Death Sentence, into Decimating Smash, but now there's nothing for any of the other
Wonder
threat.
found Crownie.
Gigantic damage onto Limit. GenX takes the blast cone, and that's Crown Shot already down. He's blown up by Wonder. A kill for Perkz, a kill for Caps. Looking to run down Limit, who throws up the Blitzcrank question mark. And with 3 seconds before the next Infernal Drake, Perkz is going to try to kill GenX before he escapes. The TP will let it happen, and actually, this is going to be a split focus here. Most of G2 pushing into the base.
G2 are looking for the end here. They could take the Infernal Soul. They could go for Baron. Forget that. G2 want the win right here, right now.
64% of you said you expect G2 to win the summer split. They are on the verge of winning against SK and guaranteeing a playoffs appearance which means they're one step closer to the
Death by
finals.
Ludens.
One step closer to Worlds. If you don't make playoffs, you don't make Worlds. The Crow Storm comes in from Tricky, goes golden with the Hourglass. This is buying some time. The Nexus stays alive a few seconds longer. It is not over yet. It's not over until the Fat Nexus dies, and it is staying alive as the ace in the hole will tag.
Why you got a Nexus shame like that?
Wait. Does this mean that G2 lose Drake? They might even lose Baron.
I don't think so, because it's still a 4 versus 4 at worst.
But
now they
have
do
to
need to get back to
reset.
base.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah, yeah.
saying. I think they lose
44
Drake.
seconds for Wonder. I mean, look, SK are going to need multiple lifelines because they're 10k gold down.
Honestly, if G2 like full 5-headed it, they would have just done Baron right there.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That would have been. It would have been hella risky though.
But like, what's the worst
You're
case
gonna
scenario?
lose the game anyway.
You walk away from it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm talking about G2. I think
Yeah,
G2 could have
G2,
done
yeah.
could have done Baron because you know SK are gonna sprint down for the Infernal Drake.
I'd like to let you know that the minigame of get stacks off caps has not succeeded. He's sitting
no,
at
it's in fact quite
25.
the opposite.
7-0-3, looking for his 17th local victory on the champion. Only 3 defeats to his name.
Wait 3 seconds, let Wonder get the buff.
Well, let's find out if they do. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, they did. I think they should have tried to BM him. Not give it over.
You recommend G2 wait, but you never wait for me to respawn.
I mean, what's the use? You're just gonna die. Like, I've never seen you push a wave. You just press R.
Oh man, this is
Okay.
turning out to be very, very spicy.
Look,
This-
they nerfed Nocturne, Betty. We're not doing anymore. Like, it's just not worth it.
It's true. Right, let's have a look at Fiddle here. Laying in wait.
Is this gonna work, Vedius?
No.
No, he's gonna die. He's so dead.
Oh, man! There is going to... That has to be the mechanics. That has to be it. Yikes indeed from Trick. Wonder's going to be pushing onto the Nexus that is exposed as G2 Esports look to close out this game. They will be the 3rd team to guarantee themselves a position in the postseason. And that means for the rest of Super...
Whoa,
Ground shot!
ground shot!
He can
No, he
quadra
can
kill.
kill
He
them
can
all.
quadra
I don't
kill.
think he can.
No Wonder! That's so toxic.
Ground shot could have killed them all!
White people sad.
G2 advance to playoffs. 7 teams remain, 3 spots available. G2 join Mad Lions and Rogue. The seeding is at stake as we have 2 more days of games to play out.
Well, I feel like that it was still a very close game. I liked a lot of what SK did in the early game. It was just, like, it was the classic, it was close until it wasn't, and there was that one fight where suddenly G2 got that gold lead, and then they just kind of snowballed. But I think that if SK had been able to win that fight, it could have gone in exactly the opposite direction. So, very enjoyable game to watch, and it's cool to see G2 returning to form after what has been a very difficult
I agree. Quickly, key player of the game at LEC on Twitter, Wonder Caps and Perks. Ender G2 returning to form. Still a few fumbles, I think it's fair to
There were
say.
certainly some fumbles, but I think what I took away most is G2 still know how to team fight. They know how to set up around the objectives. Watching Wonder on the flank, not just that, but also the vision they did. Like, they ran that set play multiple times, and there was just no way it wasn't going to work out for them.
Well, they're guaranteed into the postseason now. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to be closing out those gaps. Quick thoughts before we do have to run onto PGL. Various quality of gameplay today, maybe in comparison to previous weeks. Are we seeing similar things? Are we seeing, you know, is it too early to tell?
I think that we had kind of a mixed bag today. I think we saw definitely like middle to high end games. I think we saw actually like very few very poor performances outside of maybe the Origin XL one, which was a little all over the shop.
Yeah,
so
I think
I'm pretty
that's
happy.
fair.
I quite like what we're seeing, and we still got 10 games left
And
of the weekend.
the 2 of us agree that your performance on the Keck W machine was awful. After the break, we'll hear from Grabs before Perks joins us in the post.
Give me a weird champ. Just give me a weird champ.
No, you.
I can
you're
nail that
you're
one. I
not
can
getting
do it.
Use the clown
You're
emote,
not
because that's
getting
what you
clown.
are.
It's too late.
welcome back to the LEC for the last interview of the day. As you can see, I am with Grabs right now. Grabs, G2 finally made playoffs. First, congrats, for sure. Yeah, you Hakunat all your metas or whatever that means. But I mean, I just want to talk to you about the whole split for G2 here. I mean, tell me about it, because that was a journey for sure. But I mean, going from being the most dominant team to playing like a regular team, I want to say. How was it for you guys with adapting and everything? I know Duffman told me about it last week, but how was it for you?
Yeah, it was a rough split. The circumstances were, of course, not the best for us, and we went from being very confident and saying it doesn't matter how we end up the regular split to being, okay, are we actually that bad? What's going on? But now that we actually had 2 weeks of practice in a row where we actually could read the meta and learn about it and get comfortable on picks, I think it shows that we're just playing way better, because we had many weeks where for some reason or another we didn't practice much, and we go into the weekend and there's a pick or a matchup we didn't play much, and we're like, our matchup that's supposed to be winning is hard losing and we can't play the game out. So I think we're on a good win streak, and we're of course still far away from being on our peak form. But also this was the first game, actually, I think, where we again giggled about mistakes and we tried to go for an end when we shouldn't, and we run it down and we lose the Inferno Soul. So I think we're back basically by inting, yeah.
Well, I mean, you turned the tide. I'm still waiting for you guys to reach your peak form yet. But I mean, you were telling me about relieving the pressure from the players' shoulders and telling them, okay, it's okay. That was the general sentiment I had from reading from you guys on social media. But how is it internally when you don't want your players to feel too much pressure, but still you guys have to perform and find a way to just find it clicking again, if that makes sense?
I think it was very easy because every week we just communicate openly about how we feel, and there was never a feeling of panic. Of course, it's an unusual situation, and but as I said, every time we lost, is that it was very clear to see why we lost. There was no feeling of, okay, why we're actually losing the games? Are we just that far behind of gameplay? But mostly we're just draft and realizing what picks are good and not. And now that we can actually set up what we think is good, it's way easier. So we never lost confidence, and we even said some weeks ago, even if we enter playoffs with 6th seed, we're going to win playoffs. So, and we all truly believe that, and I think that's the important part. We're not just saying it for to hide or to not stress out, but we genuinely believe that we're that strong, and I think we showed it the last 2 years even. So we kind of deserve it as well, to have the benefit of the doubt, and we just went from there. And again, I think we're not the best right now, but we are showing a way better performance than 2 weeks ago.
You know, I think that's the openness and trust you guys had when you were performing super well really helped, I think, through this phase. But talking about Europe as a whole, I asked that question many times to teams at the beginning of the split, and they were all telling me, yeah, I don't know, maybe we don't understand the meta quite well, we'll see different results. We're at the end of the split right now, and obviously the standings look way more different than last year and even last split. So talk me through the level in Europe right now and what you make of this mess after 8 weeks.
I think it's so hard to say because the game right now doesn't ask questions in a way that there's no creative way of winning the game. You go Drake, you get Drakes, and you win the game doing that. Sure, you can be a bit better at setting it up. But usually the game ends the same way, right? At some point there's a dragon fight because there's soul, one team wins the game, and the fight goes Baron, gets a Baron, and then ends the game. So I think it's just really hard to compare regions or even teams because, yeah, a small draft diff can make a difference. One guy has a bad lane performance and is behind, and then suddenly doesn't have the impact. So I think mechanically it's hard to say as well. Like Mad Lions is good mechanically, Rogue is good mechanically overall. But yeah, I just feel like that European teams usually got the advantage by being creative. Teams like us, the Fnatic, and the game right now doesn't ask that and doesn't want that as much. So I think that's where we will have kind of a bit of a struggle. We have to find something special.
Well, we'll see.
Because if we actually have to go straight into team fighting against Chinese teams, it will be a bloodbath.
Bloodbath, yeah, for sure.
Because I think they're molded in this kind of style. So I hope that at least for Worlds there will be a bit more diversity in how you can approach the game.
I agree. I mean, we'll see how the next patches can change that, and also the fact that you guys played online and the LPL scene offline. I mean, it's a different question. We'll talk about that later. But last question for you. Now we have 3 teams locked in playoffs: you, Mad Lions, and Rogue. Who will be the 3 remaining teams to join you guys?
I mean, SK, they just have the best position right now. I think Axel will beat Fnatic tomorrow. And who's behind Fnatic? Schalke, actually, right? So I think Axel also makes it, and then between Fnatic and Schalke. I mean, Schalke right now looks stronger, but it's also not that easy to like still have that win streak, right? I think they're at, what, 5 win streak or something. So expecting a 7-game win streak is hard. So if they step up, Fnatic makes it. If not, then I think there's a world where Fnatic is not in playoffs.
We'll see about that in the next few days. But Grabs, thank you very much for your insights and this interview. And congrats for making playoffs once again.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to take one quick break, and we'll come back in a few minutes with PGL and these guys dancing. And Perkz will be here also. See you then.